You've seen it in every film about World War I. Its silhouette is an icon of the entire era, a massive pipe-like muzzle shroud and a huge disc-shaped drum like an armored hatch cover. But you don't know its real story. This machine gun is a total deception. It wasn't invented by a soldier, but by a doctor. A man who traded the scalpel for a drafting board, deciding that the mass elimination of the enemy was technically more intriguing than saving lives. Its famous bulky barrel isn't armor at all. It's an ingenious pump that uses the very physics of the shot to save the mechanism from meltdown. And the most shocking fact? This American masterpiece was betrayed and rejected by its own country. Its creator, a deeply offended colonel, was forced to flee overseas to sell the blueprints to European enemies. Later, when the war finally came, America was compelled to pay hundreds of millions of dollars for the right to produce the very weapon it had once rejected. What secret is truly hidden beneath that aluminum shroud? And how did the Lewis, created for the US Army, become the enduring icon of the British Empire? In the history of military hardware, there are few pieces of equipment whose appearance speaks such clear volumes. The Lewis gun is certainly one of them. Its silhouette is unmistakable. The heavy casing around the barrel, resembling a pipe, and the characteristic, almost giant pancake-like drum magazine mounted on top. During World War I, it became a highly recognizable symbol of nearly all combat operations, a true icon of the trenches, and one of the first truly effective aerial machine guns. Its bulky, almost clumsy appearance suggested monstrous firepower hidden deep within, but this was a highly deceptive exterior. Despite its size, the Lewis was revolutionary, and most interestingly, its creation is not solely attributed to the man after whom it is named, and its origin story began with a definitive failure. The narrative of this machine gun starts with the American inventor, Samuel Neal McLean. The most striking element of this history is that McLean was a physician by training. Imagine, a man who took an oath to save lives suddenly became obsessed with developing weapons. He was convinced he could create a mechanism that would fundamentally change the face of warfare. His primary goal was to design an automatic system that could compete with heavy, water-cooled machine guns while remaining mobile and convenient enough for a single soldier. In the early 20th century, he developed a machine gun that showed immense promise. It already incorporated the core idea, using the energy of expanding propellant gases to cycle the action, and crucially, it utilized air cooling, immediately making it lighter than its liquid-jacketed competitors. McLean genuinely believed this was a technological breakthrough. In practice, however, the machine gun proved fundamentally flawed. Its main defect was what engineers often term thermal death. Tests quickly revealed that after just a few long bursts, the barrel critically overheated, accuracy instantly plummeted, and the number of operational failures rapidly increased. This rendered the weapon unreliable in any sustained combat situation. Furthermore, its overall design was unnecessarily complicated, making the machine gun very expensive to manufacture and highly demanding to service under harsh field conditions. Attempts to rectify these major shortcomings yielded little tangible success, and the U.S. Army, focusing its resources on already proven and simpler designs, ultimately declined to adopt McLean's machine gun. The inventor found himself at a creative and financial dead end. The core idea was undeniably genius, but the flawed implementation led to his financial ruin and intense creative disappointment.
It seemed this chapter of history should have closed right there. But a brilliant, albeit underdeveloped, concept always manages to find its ultimate executor. In 1909, McLean's patent was acquired by the man who didn't just refine the design, he single-handedly saved it. This was U.S. Army Colonel Isaac Newton Lewis, a military man through and through who knew precisely what a soldier needed to survive on the battlefield. Lewis saw not a complete failure in McLean's blueprints, but a weapon with immense untapped potential. He immediately set to work, determined to transform an overly expensive plaything into a true machine of war. His focus instantly centered on the system's biggest weakness, cooling. Lewis recognized that McLean's air cooling was inherently ineffective and required a radical, ground-up overhaul. He wisely avoided the complexity of water cooling, and instead he proposed a purely mechanical solution that would permanently alter the machine gun's external appearance and become its defining feature. This moment marked the true beginning of the Lewis gun legend. Isaac Lewis essentially engineered a brand new machine gun, retaining only McLean's general principles of gas-automated automation. He introduced a unique mechanism where propellant gases were effectively tapped through a port beneath the barrel, flawlessly controlling the entire firing cycle. His paramount challenge was to definitively solve the overheating issue that had completely ruined McLean's earlier project. Lewis discovered an ingeniously simple solution that resulted in the distinctive thick barrel we've been discussing. He placed a large aluminum shroud with radial fins around the barrel. This shroud was not passive. It actively participated in the cooling process by harnessing the energy created by the shot itself. This highly sophisticated system, which we will examine in detail very shortly, dramatically reduced thermal stress on the barrel and made the weapon exponentially more reliable than any of its predecessors. Thanks to these crucial modifications, the machine gun acquired its signature characteristics and, most importantly, became fully combat-ready. Interest in the weapon naturally skyrocketed. It was now a lightweight, high rate of fire, and powerfully effective weapon. However, Colonel Lewis was destined to repeat McLean's tragic fate, though for entirely different reasons. Despite all the demonstrable merits of his final design, the military leadership in the United States once again showed a profound lack of interest in the revolutionary new machine gun. Whether this was due to entrenched conservatism or rumored personal animosity towards Colonel Lewis, he received no genuine support on his own home turf.
Lewis, a man determined to see his creation utilized, refused to waste precious time fighting military bureaucracy. He took the only logical step forward. He resigned his commission, abandoned his ungrateful homeland, and set off overseas to seek his fortune. A genuine, massive triumph awaited him, not in the halls of Washington, but in the industrial capitals of Europe. Almost immediately, his highly refined design attracted the eager interest of European militaries. The first country to show serious interest was Belgium, and they were quickly followed by Great Britain. The British, fully aware of the looming threat and the critical need for mobile firepower, made the strategic decision for mass production. It was Great Britain that opened a new legendary chapter in the weapon's history. The famous British company, Birmingham Small Arms, or BSA, became the primary manufacturer, rapidly scaling up production to supply the Army's insatiable demands. The deep irony of fate was further compounded by the fact that U.S. production was established after all. The Savage Arms Company began manufacturing licensed versions of the Lewis, but all assembled machine guns were destined strictly for export. Thus, American soldiers were paradoxically deprived of this potent weapon, while it rapidly proliferated across the globe. Great Britain, Belgium, the Russian Empire, and even Japan actively utilized the Lewis in their armed forces. It became an essential component of the Entente forces, playing a pivotal role in the trench battles of World War I, where it was universally valued for its perfect combination of maneuverability and sustained firepower. To truly understand why the Lewis became such a legend, we must delve inside and unlock the secret of its technical genius. Let's begin with that instantly recognizable aluminum shroud that made it resemble a small field cannon. This was far more than just a protective element. It was an active forced air cooling system. Upon firing, the wave of propellant gases passing through the muzzle cap and the shroud created an ejection effect, deliberately generating a partial vacuum zone at the rear of the casing. This vacuum, functioning exactly like a pump, drew in powerful blasts of cool ambient air and pulled them forcefully along the deep fins of the barrel. The implication was astonishing. The more intensively the gun was fired, the more efficiently the cooling system operated. It was a self-regulating technical wonder that completely eliminated the need for heavy, complex water jackets and kept the weapon relatively lightweight. But that was far from the only breakthrough. The second stroke of genius was the feeding system, the famous disc magazine, which was distinctively mounted right on top of the receiver. The rounds, with capacities of 47 or 97 cartridges, were fed mechanically, not relying on a spring. There was literally not a single spring inside the magazine dedicated to feeding. The rotation of the disc was achieved by a movable lever directly linked to the machine gun's automatic action. This gravity mechanical feed system dramatically reduced the probability of operational stoppages, as it entirely eliminated the common problem of weakening or freezing springs, a factor that was critically important in the muddy, freezing conditions of the trenches. Thanks to these incredible innovations, the machine gun possessed an impressive rate of fire for its era, and this resulting high density of fire made the Lewis absolutely indispensable in suppressing enemy infantry attacks. It rapidly became the very foundation of infantry unit firepower. However, even this work of engineering genius was not entirely without flaws, which the harsh realities of trench combat quickly brought to light. The main operational problem was that the mechanical and highly precise mechanism demanded extraordinarily meticulous care. The gravity-fed disc magazine, despite its reliability and cartridge presentation, was unfortunately open underneath. Sand, dirt, and mud, which were unavoidable in the environment of positional warfare, quickly packed into the delicate mechanisms, frequently leading to misfires and critical jams.
Furthermore, the magazines themselves required careful maintenance and fitting, and their capacity was finite. This forced the gunners to frequently interrupt fire for reloading, which presented a significant tactical danger in any critical situation. And finally, even the perfected forced air cooling system could not entirely save the barrel from overheating during extremely prolonged continuous firing, meaning the machine gun still needed intermittent pauses to cool down. Gunners universally prized it for its raw power and mobility, but often complained about the extreme difficulty of cleaning and the absolute necessity of regular, complex maintenance, which was always a major logistical problem on the front line. Despite these various complexities, the Lewis proved absolutely invaluable during the war. It was widely adopted in the trenches, mounted on mobile machine gun carts, tachankas, and fitted to aircraft. World War I unequivocally became its finest hour. But with the end of the global conflict, its career did not end. It simply receded into the shadows, quietly waiting for its next appearance on the world stage. After the conclusion of the First World War, the Lewis machine gun continued to provide service, but its initial glory began its inevitable fade. Its ingenious design proved too complex and prohibitively expensive for mass production during peacetime. The mechanism demanded extremely high manufacturing precision, which fundamentally contradicted the emerging trends in arms development that increasingly valued simplicity and the mass stamping of standardized parts. Gradually, it began to yield ground to newer, more sophisticated, and most importantly, cheaper models, such as the Czechoslovak ZB-26 or the iconic British Bren. Throughout the interwar period, most major armies relegated the Lewis to reserve status. But its operational lifespan was so resilient and vast that it merely awaited its second wind. The arrival of World War II, as so often happens, demanded the immediate mobilization of everything that could fire a projectile. In the critical years of 1939 to 1941, when Allied armies were in desperate need of defensive firepower, old stockpiles were hastily opened. The Lewis returned to active duty. It was widely considered obsolete, but it remained undeniably powerful and incredibly reliable.
It was extensively used by the British Home Guard, by ship crews as a powerful anti-aircraft weapon, and in the Soviet Union, it reappeared in the hands of territorial defense fighters desperately protecting Moscow. This was an old, proven soldier who once again proved his ultimate worth in a moment of existential crisis. The sheer longevity of the Lewis was astonishing. Even after the close of World War II, it continued to exist and function. In many countries, it was carefully kept in warehouses as a strategic reserve weapon. Isolated examples were found operating in regional conflicts and even with partisan detachments right up until the second half of the 20th century. It was frequently adapted and rechambered for whatever local calibers were readily available. This impressive adaptability testified to the fundamental, robust reliability designed into the system by Isaac Lewis. The complete story of the Lewis machine gun is far more than just a simple tale of a successful weapon. It is a history of how an ingenious technical breakthrough, violently born out of initial failure, was rejected in its home nation, found immediate and widespread recognition overseas, and ultimately became an international symbol of victory. It stands as a powerful example of how a crucial engineering solution, in this case the unique forced air cooling system and the innovative mechanical magazine, can permanently define an object's appearance and its enduring place in the historical narrative. The Lewis machine gun, created from a doctor's conceptual blueprints and expertly perfected by a colonel, remains in memory not as a dusty museum relic, but as a living, breathing testament to technological innovation and the unwavering resilience of man in the face of global upheaval.